Hi everyone, welcome to AI for the Average Joe, episode 6. Gosh, we're there already. Erica and Hayley here from Quantum Rise, discovering the world of generative AI. And I'm really excited to bring you today's guest. I'm not going to give an intro because he'll do it much better than I will, but Brad, over to you.
Hi, I'm Brad, and I'm the head of machine learning and creative technology for the Mission Group. We're a group of 18 creative agencies, primarily based in the UK, but with offices from San Francisco all the way to Singapore, and an amazing array of clients to go with it. My background is as a developer, but I've been working in AI and particularly generative AI for the last 5 years or so.
Wow. Amazing. And I love the fact that you're going to bring a real kind of thought leadership, marketing, PR, content type view. We've done a lot on kind of text-based generative AI, but I know you're going to bring us some kind of use cases and some thinking around creativity and thinking around generative AI, but also some of the stuff that you guys have been doing at Mission as well. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's obviously it's hugely topical to be talking about AI, and particularly, generative AI now. And as I say, we've been doing this for a good number of years ourselves. We've had notable successes in things like predicting consumer behavior and optimizing campaigns and doing other such things. Obviously, we see a huge opportunity for generative AI and other forms of machine learning across the entire group. We see applications, in every client, in every industry, and in particular, although there's a lot of discussion about using sort of AI for like efficiency's sake, being able to streamline your business using AI. Actually, our view is that you can use AI to do like previously impossible things. All of those campaigns that you wish you could have done but were hopelessly impractical suddenly become actually more achievable using like virtualized production and generative AI, and these amazing sort of virtual studios that you're able to build using generative creative. So all of those ideas that hit the cutting room floor because they're impractical suddenly become much more appealing.
I love that idea. And I guess if someone said to me, Hayley, can you think of something that you want to do that is just totally impossible for you to be able to do? I actually probably couldn't think of anything. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your ideas, Brad, and examples of some of the stuff that you've done in this space. Exciting.
Yeah, exactly. So, some of the early examples of DALL-E, are I don't know, what's it? A picture of a unicorn floating in space, or whatever else. And yeah, you could Photoshop something like that, but it takes quite a lot of time to do that. And there's almost a creative sort of a creative bottleneck there. In if it takes quite a while to mock something like that up, then you're less likely to explore lots of different areas because of the cost of doing each of those. Whereas if you use generative creative, if you have like 5 completely different executions that you want to pursue, if you can get 5 like pretty good visuals that you can present the client in, dare I say, 5 minutes, then your ability to go in completely different directions, I think, is definitely boosted. So yeah, for that early sort of ideation and stimulation and everything else, we think it's super valuable. And then over time it's going to become more more relevant when it comes to the actual production of things. So Brayleno, a Mission agency, recently did a brilliant Thatcher's ad, and they did it with the Arban Group, and it's amazing. It's just what you'd expect from them. The level of finish is beautiful, and it's just oozing with character and everything else.
Wow.
But in 5 years, when they're looking to do a new ad, could that be something that's done with generative creative? Because we're already starting to see, text to video systems, or, taking workboards and turning those into short videos. So yeah, it may be that the production of things like that is entirely sort of virtualized in the future.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're in one of those industries where we're starting to hear kickback against generative AI because of AI is going to take over my job, and what does that mean for the creatives of the world, and what happens if it does create this amazing output that you put in front of this client, whereas, like you said before, you'd have a real graphic design input and years of expertise from a human perspective going into that. So I'm really keen to understand your view on that tension and that rub that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a saying that's kicking around, not in creative agencies, but in businesses that are being disrupted by AI, which is the AI won't take your job, but someone that knows how to use it really well might.
I like that. Yeah.
And
True. It's true.
and my view is that you know, much like everyone had to adapt to, you know, Macs being introduced to the design studio in the early 90s, it is just a round of adaptation. One of the best cases I've seen of someone really going for it with AI was an illustrator who was initially sort of quite fearful of it. He didn't want to engage because he'd bought into this narrative of, you know, it's going to take my job and everything else. And actually, after a bit of time with it, he ended up completely inverting and becoming a real advocate for it. And he found that he ended up exploring, you know, once again, styles and sort of mediums that he would never have done before, because, you know, he simply couldn't, he didn't have, you know, the executional technique to be able to do certain things. And bizarrely, and this is so inspiring, bizarrely, he ended up spending more time than doing like analog illustration. So he said for the first time in years, he picked up his watercolor set and started painting again.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah,
because time was freed up in other
well,
areas.
not just time was freed up, he felt inspired by the new styles he was able to create in, like, primarily he was using Midjourney, so it wasn't anything he could really do commercially. But suddenly having like this infinite array of, you know, styles and subjects and everything else, you know, at his disposal, it then stimulated another type of creativity, or for him to rediscover, you know, doing paintings. So I think there are a lot of positive stories to be taken, and as I say, our focus isn't necessarily on, you know, on getting more out of people, is getting better out of people, you know, doing the best work possible, but, you know, boosted by AI where we can.
Yeah.
And I know just before we jumped on this podcast today, Brad, you were showing us some really nice visuals that you'd created and portraits. So it'd be really good to have a little look at some examples of some of the work that you've been doing as well, if that's okay.
So we've recently done an activation for PwC at the Cannes Lion Festival. The idea was that we wanted to reimagine the delegates of the event as famous works of art. So we took Stable Diffusion and we did transfer learning on it using a dream booth technique, and that allowed us to take the likeness of the delegates and then reimagine them, as we said. So I'll very quickly share my screen.
And do the delegates get this as a takeaway as well?
Yes,
like I can imagine rocking up
like
to
a caricature type thing.
Like everybody loves, like, you know, you look at a photo for the first time and the first thing you do is look at your own face, don't you? Yes. Everybody likes looking at their own face. So that's 100%. Such a great takeaway.
Yeah, we you know, we knew that this is a very ego satisfying thing. Yeah. I mean, in particular, my colleague Patrick here, I don't think he expected to see himself like rendered as a marble statue. But once you see yourself as such, you think, well, maybe a marble statue of me isn't such a bad thing after all. So the top row are the images of my colleague Patrick, and you can see they're sort of fairly diverse. You know, some of them are body portraits, some of them are just, you know, candid snaps, and there's a selfie in there as well. And then the bottom row are the resulting images.
Wow.
And these images didn't come out randomly. We had to prompt them. So we had to specifically say to the AI, you know, I want to see Patrick in the style of a Van Gogh, or I want to see Patrick rendered in marble, or I want to see Patrick as a woodcut. So yeah, we were really happy with the performance of the thing. You know, over the few days, we had literally hundreds of delegates queued up to use it. We generated sort of 40,000 or so portraits in the end. Wow. And we got heaps and heaps of engagement, which the client is super happy with. And we think this is one of the first sort of successful commercial applications of this technique, not just in marketing, but generally, which is something we're super proud of.
Yeah. And I have to ask as well, Brad, I mean, I use Snapchat, Instagram, various filters, and there's lots of different filters that portray that artistic portrait or various other things as well. And how does what you've just shown there differ to, for example, me using a really good Snapchat filter and sharing an image that way?
Yeah, so this is the, I suppose, tricky thing about this project is because the execution is so simple to understand, your portraits become art. It's easy to assume that it's something that's more basic than it is. But what we've actually done is we've taught a massive generative AI your likeness. So just like it knows the Eiffel Tower really well, and you can ask for the Eiffel Tower with a beautiful sunset, or the Eiffel Tower on a rainy day, or the Eiffel Tower rendered as a Monet, or whatever else. You can get infinite renderings of the Eiffel Tower in infinite styles and in infinite situations. So if I wanted to render, Patrick doing a handstand in Times Square, I could, right? And that's a big step on from
so
the
it
sort
sits
of
in the
basic
memory
filters.
of
Yes.
the AI memory to be able to draw on to apply to anything in the future as well. I've got you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and this actually raises a huge ethical challenge with this, because strictly speaking, we created an AI that can generate our delegates in any situation, including potentially compromising ones, right? And this is where there's a lot of worry about,
deepfake, for example.
fake
My
news.
head's just gone straight to deepfake. You see it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So this is almost the same technique that was used to generate those images of Donald Trump, being pinned to the floor by police officers, which made a lot of people very angry. And there was that pre-17, there was, the Pope in a puffer jacket looking very cool, which upset a lot of people as well. So we had to take special measures to make sure that, this model was destroyed as soon as the images were created.
Wow.
And, we had to write all sorts of privacy exemptions and put all sorts of security into place, because it's the sort of thing that if the model got into the hands of the wrong people, could be really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
And I like, Brad, before you told me, I love the pyramid that you talked about before, which I think people could take away as an interesting way of thinking about AI in the organization. I think you initially talked about, you guys ask yourself 3 questions when you align using AI to any kind of project as well. I wonder if you just want to give us a summary of that, and then we'll move on to kind of what our practical takeaway could be for today.
Absolutely. So our sort of hierarchy of requirements for any AI project is, first of all, is it legal? And this sounds ridiculous, but there are a lot of questions about the intellectual property, the appropriate usage, and everything else. So first of all, if there's any suggestion that we don't have the rights, or if there's any suggestion that there might be some unwanted sort of liability, then we won't do it. Second is it ethical, right? There may be, clients that are, desperate to find out, for example, who might be a problem gambler, to then optimize the conversion rate of people on a gambling website or whatever else. We won't do that. We'll only ever do ethical things using our AI. And then finally, is it effective? So every project we have an AI exploration phase to start with, and then we have the actual production phase. And in the exploration phase, we pose the question, we produce a toy model, we evaluate the output, and we give the client the opportunity to there and then cancel the project if they don't think it performs well enough. Because the thing we want to avoid at all costs is doing AI for AI's sake. And by the way, it's the same for any tech, right? Tech for tech's sake just doesn't work. I regularly go to conferences, industry conferences, and a hot topic going into these difficult economic times is, are we wasting money on tech? Are we using the tech that we're buying? And yeah, you see that 80% of the CRM and MA and advanced analytics systems people are buying are just not used. So that top of our pyramid of is it effective is absolutely key. So no AI project will go through my team if it's not proven to be legit, ethical and effective.
Yeah, I love that kind of governance framework that you've put around there, because I saw a quote on LinkedIn the other day saying, if you're delivering training on AI and you're not covering governance, digital integrity, digital behaviors, you know, that effectively everything you've just summarized really nicely there, then you're doing a disservice to the people that are your learners, or who are learning from you. So it's not just the practical, which we totally emphasize, actually that's a value add, but it's all of the right governance and framework that sits around that. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
Okay.
the final thing, the thing I wanted to share, or the tool or the technique I wanted to share, was around prompt engineering. So in the demo that I just showed you, where we transform people's profiles, pictures into artwork, one of the longest periods in it, one of the most tricky parts of the project was the prompt engineering part, where we had to figure out what we can ask the AI to do to generate the images that we wanted. And this was a really interesting fusion of tech people and our creative team. And we're lucky, we're lucky in our group that we've got lots of creatives that are also techies that are playing with this in their spare time and everything else. So we've got an amazing designer called Dan to spend some time writing prompts, seeing what the outputs look like, and recording his progress. So there were very specific, additional sort of terms that went into the AI about, the fidelity of the thing, and I don't know, telling it not to try and render people's hands and not to render them disfigured, and other such things. But prompt engineering is a really difficult topic, for almost any AI, because although you can get logged into Midjourney quickly, it's a bit of a task to go from being logged in to actually being able to create really nice artwork.
Okay.
So the thing I would share is that people are writing brilliant blogs on prompting, and people are sharing their prompts, and people are even selling their prompts. So there's this marketplace called PromptBase, which I really like. So it's a great place where you can go and buy people's prompts for a couple of dollars a go, and you can get some amazing images. So this electroflora fusion, for example, these are incredible images. So for $4.99, you get all of the details about how someone created these amazing images out of, in this case, I presume it's going to be Midjourney or something like that. So this fantastic goldfish on a bike.
It's amazing, isn't it? And this is a whole nother business now in itself. Like, just a site like this hosted, like, it's almost like this, people are going to need this, so we're going to bring a product forward where people can access stuff. And again, it's just going even that step further in terms of saving time, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also a great demonstration of an emerging form of intellectual property. And I think it speaks to the relationship between creatives and AIs, in that your prompts are your intellectual property, right? So yes, the artwork is what the client values and what might appear in the ad, but actually the hard work is in writing those words that make the AI do what you're going to do. And that's where the IP and the value is of working with these AIs.
It's a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yes,
I think.
exactly.
It really is. Yeah.
And it'll be
absolutely.
a self-taught skill as well. It's not something that's been in business for years where people can teach other people how to do it. This is something where people are having to go on, have a play, and learn it for themselves.
Yeah, and I think it'll be something that evolves over time. I think it'll be something where people get like specialisms. Like, I imagine, for example, there might be, an ad for an illustrator soon that says, must be experienced in prompting Midjourney specifically, or whatever the next tool is going to be, or whatever else. And as I say, these prompts may at some point go into generating video as well. I think Facebook released something last week where you can do text to audio, so you can generate like music and sound effects using text as well.
It's just
it's
like
incredible.
To your point, Hayley, you can't imagine it because it's not there. But creatively,
just jump on. I think just jump on the bus and just go.
Just
on
have
it
a
and
go.
See where it takes you.
Totally. And Brad, you were talking about like, don't worry about the automotive stuff. Really think quite boldly around the opportunity that we've got here, particularly as creatives and techies and anyone else having a go. Brad, how do people get hold of you if they want to connect, if they want to learn more about what you're doing and what's happening at Mission Marketing Group, etc.?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm a recent LinkedIn convert. I was very reluctant to get on board, but actually I've made some great connections since. You'll see me at things like the B2B Marketing Conference and other places. We recently did a great talk on chat AI there, and you can get my details on themission.co.uk. And I'm happy to chat, on any aspect of generative AI, or indeed any other great creative tech. My colleagues like to say that I'm the person you come to when you say, wouldn't it be great if? So if you have any wouldn't it be great if problems, then I'm your man.
And I really hope that's your tagline on LinkedIn, and if it isn't, it should be.
I'll have to. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Brad, thank you so much
Thanks,
for sharing
Brad.
your expertise today. Again, a really different way of looking at using it, generative AI, a different industry, different systems. So thank you for bringing your expertise. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brad.
Cheers.